Hello, and welcome to HRBC show called Let's Talk. So today we have Delegate Karen
Greenhalgh.
Greenhalgh. I'm sorry about that. I just didn't want to mess it up for the people. So Delegate Greenhalgh here, and she's with the 85th District, and we are really excited to have her. But before I start, got a couple of things for you. We have sent out the surveys to all of the local candidates. The email used for the surveys are the same email addresses that's in the VPAP, vpap.org. So whatever you put there is where we sent those surveys. So please, if you did not get that survey, you've got to let us know. Do not wait till we start voting and then be like, oh, I didn't get to do the survey. Because I'm telling you now, I put it on all our social media. I've sent emails. Please, if you have not done the survey or received the survey, all you have to do is send us a message, send us an email, just any way you want to contact us, and we will get you that survey. Also, for members, if you have never received an email from us, we use the email address that you used when you joined us. So if you have never received an email from us, please let us know because that's how we vote. We send the ballots out with the email address that you provided us. So if you don't get the ballot, it's going to be a little bit too late once we start voting. So let us know now because I just sent an email yesterday. If you did not get that email yesterday, you need to let us know. Please contact us because your vote matters. All right. So, Delegate Greenhalgh, tell us a little about yourself.
A little bit about myself. I represent the 85th District here in Virginia Beach. That's the Kempsville area up to Pembroke Mall, down to Regent University, and I have Mount Trashmore. This is my first time in office. Last year was my first attempt to run for office. I won by 115 votes. And the last few years, I've been working to help people I wanted in office, people I wanted to be able to vote for, win and get in office. And so when the seat came up, they needed somebody to run. And so I stepped up. So I'm thoroughly enjoying it and enjoy serving the people in my part of Virginia Beach.
Awesome. Now I have a few questions for you.
Yes, ma'am.
You ready?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. How will you support economic improvement in African American community?
So, well, economic improvement right now with inflation going crazy across the nation is difficult, but it is simply increasing the opportunity to get a good job, good paying job, and lowering cost. So in Virginia right now, we can work on helping with better job opportunities, and we can lower costs by lowering the taxes, which we've tried to do. We've lowered the Virginia taxes. We've lowered taxes for our military veterans. We got rid of the state portion of the food tax, and we tried to lower the gas tax, get rid of the state portion of that, but that one we didn't get through. That would have been 25 cents a gallon. I meet so many people. I'm walking doors in my district to meet my constituents and see what's important. And I've had so many say they feel they need to get a second job, but they can't afford the gas to go back and forth to the second job. So it's a difficult situation right now. But in Virginia, we've made big steps to try and keep money in the pockets of our Virginia hardworking citizens.
Yes, I feel you on that gas tax.
We were so close.
I needed it. But hey, maybe next time. How will you support job creation in the African American community?
So, well, job creation.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. I just love the idea of having more opportunities. Not everyone wants to go to college. I'd like to see more opportunities for skills and trades. I'm actually working with, I don't want to say too much because it might not work, but I'm working on a plan to try and help high school students actually be able to graduate with a certification so that they can go straight into the job force if that's what they would like to do. But beyond jobs, there are so many people like me who wanted their own business, want to be able to make decisions for ourselves. And I didn't get to go to college. I to be honest. I didn't do well in high school. There was no scholarship. There was no money. And so I started my first business in my garage, grew it, sold it. But I'll never forget how difficult it was for a first-time person trying to get into business to learn how sales tax works and the business license and all the regulation. And I was in manufacturing, so we had to deal with OSHA and all the employee. And there were a lot of laws and regulations, and even more now. When I started my second business, I really seriously thought about, do I want to do this? Do I want to go through all this again? And I did. So I'd like to see regulations reduced. In the last session, we did manage to reduce a lot of the paperwork that veterans have to go through to start businesses. And I'd like to see that extended. One thing this administration did as far as getting rid of some of the regulations, I really appreciate the dedication the governor has to cutting regulation. He just, his first big task was cosmetology license, which was so difficult to get. And they looked at the licensing requirements and realized out of, I think it was like 1,500 hours, only 500 pertain to health and safety issues. The rest of it could be learned on the job. So by making it easier to get the license to know you're safe, what is important for safety and health, it's easier to get into the job market and learn on the job so that you're earning money instead of just paying to learn how to get a license. So just common sense things like that will really help to make jobs more available and better jobs at a faster pace to be able to progress.
Awesome. Okay. Do you support community policing, and do you have a vision of what that will look like?
Yeah. So community policing to me, if you just look up definitions, everybody has a different idea. My idea is that the police will know the people in their neighborhood, and the people in the neighborhood will know their police officers. And right here in Virginia Beach, it's a process we have well. The SROs are assigned to the same precinct. SROs are the police officers that work in the schools. They're assigned to the same precinct that they patrol when they're not on school duty. So they know their areas well. I did a ride along with our police officers just a few weeks ago, and it was a really eye-opening experience for me. But I got off track a little bit. But as far as the community policing, I think that's really important. And another thing I like about Virginia Beach is that every precinct has every quarter an outreach into the community where they can interact on a normal basis, and the kids can see that the police are their friends, not their enemy. And then the parents, if they know they're police officers, if there's a kid getting off track, they can actually go to the police officer and ask them to talk to their child. That's one thing I would like to see happen more often. But in the police ride that I did, the biggest issue was mental health. We went to we had a drug overdose, we had an attempted suicide, and both of those, the police ended up taking charge. And then we had a man who was having a mental health crisis. He was, I've heard the word brittle and people break. Well, that's where this gentleman was. And by the time the police got there, there were people trying to keep him out of the street. And so people were keeping him out of the street and the police came. But then this man, he had had so many confrontations with the police, he was afraid of the police, but he wanted help. And it was really sad. And he talked to me because I didn't have a uniform on. So while the police officers kept him out of the street, he talked to me, and the police officers were able to identify him, which was difficult because he had no identification on him. But they figured out who he was, found a hospital that would take him as long as he said he needed help. So he talked to me all the way to the hospital, into the hospital, and there were 3 police officers that went in with us to make sure this man stayed safe, stayed calm, and got the help that he needed because they didn't want to arrest him. So the problem this brings up for me is the idea of community policing and having mental health counselors address issues like my police officer had to address when I was with him. And there's a system here in Virginia Beach where calls are rated. Could this be a mental health counselor with police as backup, or maybe police and a mental health counselor in case they can be of assistance? But there aren't enough mental health counselors to fill the positions. So most of the police officers I talk to, they get these calls, but there's never a mental health, or rarely a mental health counselor to fill that position. So I would love to see those positions filled so that we can actually enact that part, which I think is probably the core of community policing.
Okay. So, just out of curiosity, if they wanted to fill those positions, what they need to do? You know?
They can go to the city. If you go to the city
Mhm.
and they have job openings, because we actually my assistant Emily Nelson checked to see if there were really a whole lot of job openings, because I wondered, are they not trying to fill the positions, or are the positions not being filled? And we found it seems to be the positions are simply not being filled. So if anyone wants to jump in, you can contact the city, and it would be a wonderful thing to be able to jump in and help these police officers do what their job is, instead of having to help people who are afraid of police officers.
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay. So tell us some of the wins that you see Virginia parents winning to protect our children.
So, well, one of the big ones was the repeal of House Bill 257, which it changed the reporting requirements for actions that took place on school property that off of school property would have been a crime. So we are back to, because of that repeal, now if a student does something that could be considered a felony, they are required to report it to the police. The law is a bit more complicated, but that's the high level. But what I really like is, if it's a misdemeanor, they've given the school flexibility on how to handle it, but these issues do need to be addressed. And if a child is the victim of what could have been a crime, the parent is required to be told, your child was the target or could have been the victim of a crime, and tell them how they can go to the police, find out what happened, and press charges if it's appropriate. So the parents are not left out of the loop, which is something that was happening under 257. So that's a big win. It protects students, not just the students who are victims, but students who commit crimes, because if we don't hold them accountable in school and they think this behavior is acceptable, how can they manage in a college situation, or how can they manage being a good employee if they're not held accountable for their actions? So we're helping everyone with that bill. And another one I really like is the Educational Improvement Scholarship Program. And that's you're nodding, you know about that one? This is a program that was fully funded by this administration. If someone makes a donation to a private school, then that money can be used as a scholarship for an economically disadvantaged youth to be able to go to the private school, and the donor gets a tax credit. So I think it's a win-win for everyone, and it's a scholarship program. And again, I see where that could be extended beyond where it is, and I'm trying to come up with legislation to extend that, to give even more opportunities to economically disadvantaged youth to be able to further their education while they're still in public high school. And again, that's another one I'm working on. So, but hopefully it'll come through. It's looking good.
Okay. Your slogan is Restore Virginia. Tell us about that. What is the meaning behind it?
So, well, I came up with Restore Virginia because I just love Virginia. I've always lived here, always lived in Hampton Roads. I was born in Portsmouth, never lived anywhere else. Lived and worked in all 5 of our South Side cities. And so I love our history. And we've always been first. We've always been the leader. We were the leaders in writing the Constitution, the leaders in writing the Declaration of Independence. And we've just always set the standard, a very high standard for the rest of the country. And it just seemed as though we were getting off track. We were losing our constitutional liberties. And just like the rest of the states, the whole country, it seemed to me, the government was encroaching more and more into our everyday life. And I'm a firm believer in individual responsibility and liberty. To have liberty, you have to be responsible for your actions. There are 2 sides to that. And as much as possible, I want people to be able to make their own decisions, take responsibility for their decisions. And the government only interferes if you're encroaching on someone else's liberty. And So we were losing that, and I wanted to restore Virginia to our leadership in the country as far as protecting our constitutional liberties. But when I look at where we are now, we need to restore our educational system. There was a time when Virginia had the best schools in the country, and we've lost that over the last few years. And we need to restore our economic basis, where we have been best for business and an easy place to start business. And I hear when I'm walking doors, I hear so many people say they have trouble getting a job, or it's so expensive to live in Virginia Beach, for example. And those are things that we need to address. We need to restore Virginia to being the great state that she is. And we've taken great strides in the last year. I'm very proud of what we've accomplished here in Virginia.
Okay. What improvements do you think can be made in the healthcare system?
On the healthcare system. Well, on the federal level, the Affordable Care Act, right now they do, it's called community pricing. They have a community scale. So someone can be like a healthy 27-year-old person and live in a neighborhood with a lot of elderly people, and that 26-year-old healthy person would pay a higher rate. You're basically charged by your zip code. And I think that needs to be more individualized so that people are paying a more reasonable rate. That's on the federal level. And for us, I'd like to see people able to buy across state lines for health insurance. I think if we have more options, more competition, it brings the price down. And then again, people have more choices to make. And we can do the same thing with generic drugs and insulin. If we allow more generic drugs, that will be able to bring the price down. And we have a critical shortage of healthcare. One reason we don't have enough mental health providers for the police is our hospitals are all understaffed. So if anyone is out there wants to join into the medical care community, that would certainly be a big benefit too.
Okay. So I was speaking to some elderly people before, and their main complaint was they've been paying for like policy since they were like 27 or whatever. And it bothered them the most that when they turned 60, all of a sudden they went from 100 to 300. So that's what most of them were really bothered about, because
for healthcare. Yeah, healthcare. I mean, I know I know a lot of people that don't have healthcare, and it's so expensive. And I think competition would help that. But then too, if you have people paying based on their age, and then other people paying because they live near people that have to pay on their age, that's where that Affordable Care Act rating comes in. But it's a problem that we need to really look at and address. I agree.
Okay. All right. If an abortion bill ever came, what would it have to look like for you to vote for it?
Okay. Well, I'm very pro-life, very firmly pro-life. I don't like to say I will support a certain bill or another until I see how it's written, because every word makes a difference. But I can say one thing that we do have to take care of is the fact that the Democrats insisted on third trimester elective abortions being done at taxpayer expense. So we're not talking about the way the law is written. It says you can have a third trimester abortion for the health of the mother, but for the health of the mother in the third trimester, you can deliver a live baby. So that is a medical emergency. An elective abortion, the goal is to deliver a baby who's not alive. So in third trimester, I don't want to get too graphic. I don't know what the age range of your listeners are, but for them in third trimester, it's the same. There are not a whole lot of ways to go about it. The only difference is if the baby is born alive or not. And with an elective abortion, that is the goal. With a medical emergency, you're with doctors who are taking care of the mother and the child. And to have an elective abortion in the third trimester funded by the taxpayers is something that I would definitely support, is something we have to stop.
Okay. So you would not vote for it if it said the taxpayers had to pay for it?
Yes, taxpayers should not have to fund a third trimester elective abortion. We're not talking health of the mother. That's a different issue. Elective abortion, third trimester should not be, and especially at the taxpayer's expense. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, gotcha. All right. Now, you've only been in a short amount of
I
time,
know.
but you have hit the ground running. Tell us about HB 1128. Income tax,
11
business.
Oh, 1128 is what I may have mentioned it earlier. That's the tax deduction for military. What we wanted, what we wanted to do was get the first $40,000 of a military veterans retirement funds to be not subjected to Virginia tax. And if the veteran had passed, the same for the surviving spouse who was getting those benefits. We couldn't get all 40,000 at once, so it's going in over 4 years. So for this year, the first $10,000 is not subjected to Virginia tax. Next year will be 20,000. The next year, 30,000, and then the fourth year we'll get our whole 40,000. And so that is once a veteran or the surviving spouse is 55. That will be not subjected to Virginia tax. And we have so many military people here. And when I'm walking doors, oh my goodness, probably a third of the doors I knock on, they're either veteran or active duty military. And we want those people to stay here. We want Virginia Beach to be the city. I love it here. I mean, I love Hampton Roads. I love being here. And we want our military families to stay here and raise their families here. And to be able to say that their retirement benefits are not taxed is a huge part of that.
Yeah, I'm a veteran.
Yay! Yeah, but you're not 55.
Nah, not yet. But I would love to not have all these taxes. Virginia has a lot of taxes.
Yes.
And I'm from Virginia. My whole family's here. So I can't go anywhere. All right. Tell us about VAHB 1163. Virginia Beach City of Amendment Charter expands boards of equalization.
Yeah. I didn't realize until I got there, the cities aren't allowed to do anything to change their charter without permission from the General Assembly. So the city of Virginia Beach asked me to carry this. The Equalization Board is a panel of 3 people. And if you think your real estate assessment is in error, you go to these 3 people, explain why you think your real estate assessment is wrong, and they decide whether or not how much to correct it. Well, the law says there have to be 3 people in the panel for the taxpayers to be able to go in front of the panel. We only had 3 people. So if someone was out, then the taxpayers couldn't be served. So they asked for a 4th person to be an alternate. So it's that simple. They really want to be, Virginia Beach really wants to be able to serve the people who live here. And we all know with real estate assessments, everybody has a question at some point or other. And so now we have a 4th person. If one person on the board can't show up, we have an alternate so that our citizens can be served. It's that simple.
Okay. So just out of curiosity, you're saying that any city that wants to change their charter, I live in Portsmouth, I'm kind of glad for this, but, but they have to go get it changed by legislation, right?
Yes.
So how do you feel about that?
So I think it's actually a good thing. In one respect, the fact that all of the cities aren't exactly the same can be an issue if it got out of hand. One of the things that make us good for business is because our cities are all on the same page. So that's been a real benefit. As far as making us friendly for businesses coming in and starting a business here. They don't have to worry about what city their employees come from or, where they're doing business. Do they have to have different rules? Because we're pretty much the same. But when it comes to these small things like having a 4th person, it seems like they could have done that themselves, but rules are rules. And
yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Well, that is all of the questions, and I don't see any questions from the people. Is there anything else you would like to tell us?
So just how much I enjoy being here. It's been a pleasure. And I went to my first Hampton Roads Black Caucus meeting last month. and I've known Rob for a while, who's just a joy. I did get to go to the men's, what was the leadership council meeting that they had at the law enforcement center? The men, I'm forgetting the name. Do you remember the name of the group? But I got to go there and speak, and it's just a leadership opportunity for young people. And so just so many good activities. And I just love living in Virginia Beach, representing Virginia Beach. And I appreciate the honor. I really feel to have been elected to this position. It's an honor. And I'm doing my best to live up to the responsibility that y'all have given me. And I do want to be held accountable. So if someone has questions, I think as much as I believe in individual decisions, we elect people to make decisions for us. And so when we elect them, we need to hold them accountable, not just me, but everyone that you vote for. If you have a question, they should be willing to answer you.
Cool. Now, when you were speaking at our members meeting, you said that we didn't have to be in your district to contact you and ask you questions.
Oh, no, that's true. I will tell you a story. I wrote a letter to every church in my district, simply saying, as delegate, if you would like to have a conversation, tell me what's important to your part of our community. I'd love to hear it. Well, I got a letter back from a pastor who I assumed was writing a response to that letter, went to see him, and we crossed the line. I said, this isn't my district anymore. And so he's in a different district, but I'm working with this church. And no, you don't have to live in my district. I figure every vote I make affects every person who lives in the state of Virginia. And while I represent my part of Virginia Beach, my decisions, it's hard to believe, but my decisions carry a lot of weight. And it's a burden that I really carry and take very seriously. And I get letters from all over the state, and I do my best to answer every single one. Even if they're not in agreement, we can still talk about why we disagree and hopefully learn from each other. There's always more to learn, which is another reason I don't like to say, I'll definitely support a bill that does this.
Yeah.
Because if you read it, there could be unintended consequences. And then you have to tell somebody no after you said yes. I'm very careful about what I say. I know my principles, they're not negotiable, but how a bill is written makes a big difference. And I learn a lot from the letters and comments I get from people. So. Awesome. So, yeah, I'll talk to you. Even though I was born in Portsmouth.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Exciting. I have one more question that just escaped me. That's why you're supposed to write them down. We can wait. You're supposed to write them down. Okay. So, yeah. I can't remember it. So.
If you remember, you can always call me. We can do this again.
Okay, awesome. So it was such a pleasure to have you here, and that is all that we have. Okay. But just so y'all know, she was not talking to herself when she looked over there. Her assistant is over there, okay? That's who she was talking to.
Good point. Thank you.
All right. Well, that's it. And thank you all for joining us.
Thank you.
Have a great day.